What's up, guys? Compound Coalition video here. I've got Chuck Peoples from Appalachian Medical Solutions here. Tell us what that is. What's your company do?
Well, I do primarily education is the one thing I'm trying to do is teaching classes. I do the trauma things, the stop the bleed, but I'm also doing what I'm calling homestead medicine, which is prolonged care. It's a lot of the care that people don't think about. What do you do after you stop the bleed? What do you do for 2 days, 2 hours, 2 months, 2 years to take care of somebody? And that's kind of what I'm focusing on. And then I also do medical kits, custom medical kits. And it's not just, when I say custom, it's not canned kits. If you want a kit, you call me, tell me what you want, what you need, what you're going to use it for, and we build a kit for your specifications, what you want, give you those ideas of things instead of just, oh, I'm going to buy this kit, I'll use 70% of it, but the other 30% doesn't really pertain to me. This way, 100% of your kit is exactly what you want and need.
So you're only limited by by their funds, basically.
Yeah, exactly. How big or how small? Do they want a vehicle kit? Do they want a home kit? Do they just want something that they put in their EDC stuff? Mm-hmm. So it's whatever they want or need.
So what happens when the medications run out?
Well, that's one thing. Either do you have an unlimited stock, but that's when the medications stop being produced, you're going to have to rely on the old ways of what they used to, like honey, for wound care, which is still used today, or you need to look at herbal medicine and things like that. And that's some of the stuff I'm studying now to become more familiar with.
Where are we using honey?
Any wound. I mean, honestly, any wound that's on the skin and stuff, they've been using that for thousands of years for wound treatment.
Are we still using it in U.S. medicine?
Some places, yeah. Yeah, there are wound care treatment places. It's all really in the imagine of the doctor and what they think
what they're
works.
Willing to, right.
What they're willing to do. But I do know of cases where they're still using honey or honey extracts for wound care management.
Maggots for debridement.
Oh, yeah, maggots. They're still medical grade maggots, whatever that means, but they still have them. Most hospitals have them.
Ate before they ate you.
Exactly. But yeah, there's a lot of things that have been used, and they're going more and more back to a lot of the old. Everything goes in cycles. And they're doing studies now where they're saying, some of the simple stuff of just like honey works, then all the chemicals and all the other stuff that they've come up with over the years, honey still works better.
So power goes out. Power's been off 6 months. Granny and, you've moved out to grandma's house or whatever. What's the real capacity capability, right? You better have that shit in the ground growing right now. Like, you're not going to just grow a willow tree because you need some pain management. Like, that stuff, I mean, well, actually, that's a bad example because a willow tree you could actually have growing in 6 months. But you need to maintain that, right? Like, in the old days, we maintained a greenhouse with herbs and things for that, right? You had a medicinal garden, and you can mix that in. Like, we've lost the knowledge, right? It's there if you look for it, but it's not passed down, right? Grandma used to grow an herb garden and a medicinal garden, and now it's off the radar, right? So we need to bring that back into the imagination, bring that back into the forefront, and show people how simple that is. And here is this kit, right? Here are the things you need. Here are the seeds to grow them. Here are the things you can get local. Here are the better options. Like, you were just looking at oregano out there, and you're like, which kind of oregano is this, right? Well, you can mix oregano with different things and make tinctures. And how do you make the alcohol to do the solution, to do the suspension, to make the tincture, right? And people don't speak about that, right? Like slippery elm bark and stuff like that for expectorants and things.
No, there's a lot of things. I mean, it's also some of the simple household items that you could turn into medications. The old. My grandmother was a pediatric nurse, worked for a well-known pediatrician where I grew up, and my brother and I had allergies growing up. Always had a cough. You know what they gave us? Hot toddies. I had access to every medication. My grandmother would mix up the third of bourbon, honey, the lemon juice, and that's what they would give us because that's what worked.
So did it have no onion?
No, they never
garlic?
put the onion.
No garlic?
Yeah, sometimes it depends on how bad the cough was. That's what was funny is, and what type of cough we had is what she would add to it. But it
Because
was
grandma
always
knew. Like
Yeah.
she could listen to and
Yeah.
knew when you were faking and when your ass was going to school or not.
Right. But I used it on my son growing up, and now my son's using it on my grandson.
Yeah, and
because
imagine if that was out there. Like, imagine if your grandson, Dad gave me whiskey last night.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's what works
Right.
because and it's worked for hundreds of years. So I've always kind of looked at it. Why fix what's not broken? If it
Right.
worked then, it'll work just as well now.
So are you doing? Is it Appalachia or Appalachia or Appalachia?
Depends on where you're from. It's
do you-
Appalachian is what I call it. Some people call it Appalachian. It's all where you're from.
So if you live where there's a coal mine,
yeah,
it's
Appalachian.
Appalachia.
You won't hear anybody in West Virginia call it Appalachian. If you
Okay.
do, they're not from West Virginia.
got it. Okay. So are you able to do? Are you doing this full time? This is your full time income?
No, I still have a job, but I am transitioning as I get busier, and it's getting to the point that it's going to be my full-time thing. I mean, when I started doing this, not even 2 years ago, I didn't think it would ever go into full-time. And the only reason I did this was what I call the John Willis, ninja, mind meld thing, is because you told me you won't do it. And it pissed me off enough to where I went and did it. But one of the reasons I'm here and one of the reasons I want to tell a story is almost 3 years ago, I sat in the hospital. I should be dead. I literally had a disease that shouldn't be recoverable. I was. As a matter of fact, I was just telling Dr. Barry the story. I was asking him some advice, and he goes, you should be dead, right? And yeah. But recovering, I was in the hospital for 5 months, bedbound literally for 4. I had to learn how to walk again. While I laid in the bed, that's how I found you. And I listened to the videos, and that's literally one of the big reasons that gave me. I could have laid there, and I for a while I remember laying there thinking, my life's over. I'm not going to be able to do medicine. I'm not going to be able to do this, because I was on dialysis. I was in multi-system organ failure. I didn't know how I was going to recover. Your videos, and that's why I always try to listen. I always try to comment, always because that gave me motivation. That gave me motivation to be there for my son, for my grandson. Now I have 2 grandsons, for my family, and to make something out of myself and get out of that bed and do something. And I've done things and recovered that doctors never expected. But it was your words, you yelling at me, as I say, through the little screen on my phone, telling me to get up. And then having met you, it's proof of success. And that's why I brought my son to Self-Reliance Festival to see things. Now I've brought my grandson. I brought my nephew, my brother, because it is transferable. When you see that success, you want to do better. And now, because of you and what I've seen, the people I've been exposed to, the Self-Reliance Network, as I call it, and the SOE Network, I've got a successful business. It is growing and growing and growing every time, every day, and more classes. And it's that work ethic from you and from the other people that you're around, you're immersed by, that I'm putting into the business to make it successful. And because I want to do more.
It's definitely contagious, right? It's going to be who you surround yourself with. And when you see it, it builds momentum, right? When you get around there, you can be around hype monsters or success zombies or whatever, and they just go and go and go and go, and that's their whole thing, but they never do anything with it. But you have to do something with it. And you've been doing something with it. So how far are we from you not working your normal job?
I plan a year.
1 year?
Yeah, a year from now, I plan this to be
1 year from now, or 1 year from January?
1 year from January. I mean, from this past
Because
January, so
this
by
year
next
is over
January,
with,
yeah.
so you have 9 months.
I have 9 months that I'm.
And what
gonna
happens?
Make this.
And what is going to happen in the 9 months? What's the demarcation?
Well, my demarcation is just really is getting the classes scheduled. I've been playing with the classes, so basically product development.
How many classes have you done?
24, 25 over the last year and a half.
That's real.
Yeah.
And some of the classes I've heard that you've been involved in or led, I don't know what your position in them, what your place in them was, but those are some pretty fucking high speed classes.
Yeah.
Some of that shit's like, people hear that shit and they're like, oh my God, you're not even supposed to be talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've actually posted some videos on some social media. Didn't put anything, never answered anything, showed no one's faces, but people were convinced it was 18 Delta trading. You know?
Right. Live tissue labs and stuff.
Yeah, things like that. But it's the things I teach. It's not rocket science. Medicine's not rocket science.
Right.
It's skill and knowledge. It's
Right.
applying that. I'm just passing it on. I've got 28 years experience of doing this stuff. I don't know everything. I never will. I'll never be an expert. I'm still learning, but I've learned enough that I believe I have some value to pass on to people so they can learn new skills. And I think these are skills that the average person needs to know. We see what the world around us is. You're not going to have the modern healthcare. We don't have it now that what we knew it as is 5 years ago.
Yeah, a lot of people want to focus on, well, this guy doesn't have hands-on experience or whatever. Everybody has something to teach, right?
Right.
Somebody asked me on live feed a couple of weeks ago, they're like, what do you think about guys teaching gunfighting classes who haven't been in gunfights? I'm like, can you learn something from them? Right? Does he know more than you do? Does it matter what he fucking used to do? It's what he's doing right now, right? Everybody's stuck on these. Well, that guy wasn't in the military. All right, you weren't either. Fucking, did you go in the military? Okay, well then why is that it's typically when people want to talk shit, it's because of their own inaction, right? I'm not going to go to this guy's thing, or they have some perception, they're fanboys or whatever, but they're not training with the dude that they're saying you should go train with either. You see a lot of that. Like, we are very good, especially it seems in the last few years, with tearing down our own communities. Everybody wants to, we're so busy fucking fighting against guys who own guns and guys who own guns, or guys who medical train and guys who medical train. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. And they get a lot of amplification, right? You see it very fucking frequently.
Well, I tell people, even classes or when I present or I've lives I've done on other people's YouTube channels and stuff, if you don't have me to come to your training, or you don't buy from me, buy from these people. I recommend people, Refuge Medical, and there's several people. Jake Drum with Emergency Salute. Buy from them. Do that because I know they add value. I've used their products. Just get the training. You can buy all the stuff you want, especially medical. Buy all the IFAKs you want. If you don't take any training, it's useless.
Right, or take them out of the fucking package.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't tell you how many, and I see it all the time, and I did this I was at a gun store, and a couple cops walked in. I knew one of them was a rookie, and the other one was, his field training officer. I knew the field training officer, and I walked up to his rookie who'd never seen me before, and I took his tourniquet, which was in a pouch, still in the package.
In the plastic, yeah.
And I took it out, handed him the package, got it through, staged it, did everything, handed it back to him, and walked away. And I looked at the guy who I've known 20-some years and went, man, train your rookies. I mean, you have 90 seconds. You don't want to be fooling with that stuff. But that's the whole thing it's little bits of knowledge. It's not rocket science. It's not the medical society has us all fooled, think it's some sort of, you have to be a genius and all this. If I can do it, anybody can do it, honestly. I mean, it's just skill and knowledge. It's taking the time and the investment in doing that, because how much value do you put on your family member's life or your child's life or your neighbor's? It's just taking that time and doing that. And anybody can learn these things. I can teach anybody how to do sutures. That's the easiest part. It's what you do before you close that wound, how you take care of that wound. Does that wound need closed?
Right. Should you close that wound?
Yeah. So that's the knowledge. But I can show anybody that. It's just taking the time. It's what's your survivability, or what taking care. And it doesn't have to be the end of the world zombie apocalypse. It can be a hurricane. I've seen it on natural disasters I've responded to. What hospital systems shut down for a month, 2 months, things like that. Look at Hurricane Katrina. It's a perfect example.
Yeah, a lot of those hospitals never come back.
No. Look, Puerto Rico. I was at Hurricane Maria. I was chief medic down there for the recovery, and there's hospitals there that still have not opened back up.
Yeah, and a lot of them, they're failing hospitals too, so that's just an excuse to keep them closed.
Yeah.
So where do you go, right? You live there. Where do you go? Like, if I get harmed here, I'll go to Camden for wound closure, but we're not going to Camden for anything real.
Right.
I'd rather take my risk dying on the way to, Paris or Jackson or, a real hospital. But so many of us, especially the people listening to this, most likely, we're preppers, we're homesteaders, we're preparing for something that we hope never happens, but we believe is going to happen, right? With all the crazy stuff going on in the government right now, it's not far-fetched to think that if you don't take some thing they want you to take, or your social credit score is not at a certain level, you won't have access to certain medical cares. Well, we saw that happen, right?
Right.
Like organ transplant people been on a list for years, and their organ comes up, and they literally, unless you take this thing, you can't have this transplant. You're just set to die.
If you look at what's happened the last few years with the big C, I mean, look if you didn't have that card, your passport, your papers, look what
That's
happened
right.
then.
So the homestead medical thing, I like the idea, right? It's something we all talk about. We all amass things. I have tons of fish mocks and Pin VK and all the vet meds, right? And the government's really attacking that. I think we're already actually past the deadline right now. You can't buy those things currently, or in the near, like within weeks here. You won't be able to just buy veterinary medications like that over the internet. You'll actually you will have to physically see a veterinarian, just like you would have to go to the doctor. If I go to my doctor right now and I'm like, hey doc, I want some 500 bottles of Zithromax. They're not going to fucking give you pharmaceutical bottles.
No.
A corpsman in the military, you might be able to get a hold of those, which also would be an illegal activity. But there's an attack. They're not coming after. It's not about your fucking animals. They don't give a shit about your animals. They know you have found a way to circumvent them, and they need you to be on their system, to stand in their line, so that when you say things they don't want you to say, you have the fear and are more cognizant of what you're saying, because they will turn your shit off.
Well, if you can't take care of yourself, you're forced to go to them.
That's right.
So they don't want you to take care of yourself.
That's right. Their main objective is to clear the inner parts of the United States out and move you to the coast and reduce population. And if you haven't heard that, and that sounds crazy to you, you should probably look into that. Like, they really say those things. So how do we buck that system, right? They no longer matter because we no longer mind. We don't care what they're doing because we don't need them, right? So what are the steps you take to put yourself into that position?
Well, it's training, it's preparing, it's in layers and it's in parts. You've got to have the things, but you got to know how to use the things. So it's a two-part thing. You have to go to the training, you have to take the medical training, go to the tactical response, buy all the guns and ammo you want. If you don't know how to use that, and you don't know how to use it in a gunfight, I can stand all day and shoot at a target 10 yards away. But if you don't know how to use that, it's a whole different thing when that adrenaline starts going up. And it's the same thing with medical. People, I can do it. Until you see somebody bleeding out, until you've ever put a real tourniquet on to a real patient and see them screaming, yelling, swinging, kicking, telling you, begging you to take it off of them. Yeah. Or you've seen the blood, the guts. You've seen bones twisted in ways and an arm angulated in a way that doesn't seem like it should be humanly possible, but that's what's happened. How do you straighten that? How do you fix that? And can you do that?
So most people haven't seen that.
No.
So how do we prepare them for that?
That's what the training's about. You get it, and it's stress-induced training, and that's one of the things that I do and the reason we do the stress-induced training, and you almost take it to over the top, because when it does happen, it's muscle memory. You're developing muscle memory. It's reps. It's all these things. So you're acting before you're thinking. You're doing before you actually put a conscious thought about what's happening.
So how proficient can we get them in a day or a weekend or 2 hours or 6 hours?
In a day, it's a beginning. A 2-day class of Homestead Medical, I can get you proficient in some wound care, what to do, and have the knowledge and show you the skill. You still need to practice, but there's always classes. There's always ways to better yourself. And I offer those layers of training, as I call them, and we train together. I don't have all the answers. You may learn something, but I've done this on real patients. The equipment I use and I recommend is equipment I've used on real patients. I won't be a hypocrite.
So take me through your education catalog, right? What does it start with? Somebody who knows nothing, what's the first thing they should take?
Probably the basic trauma stuff, because that's what people always gets their interest in their peak, of how to use a tourniquet, how to stop bleeding. And then with that goes treating with shock. And then we can go into more of the March algorithm thing of the emergent care, the TCCC stuff, to go through that. And then you can start off with the homestead medicine stuff, because I I take some of that stuff. We go over that emergency bleeding. We do that. But with that stuff, I also teach you how to do a patient assessment. And people think, well, that's pretty easy. No, it's not. I mean, I show you the steps of how you assess that head to toe and figure out. The biggest thing about patient assessment is sick or not sick. In other words, do I need to hurry up now, or do we have some time?
And in mass casualty, you have to decide.
Sure,
who's
same thing.
Right? Can we save them?
Right. It's that simple. Are they salvageable or not? That's the first decision you make. Yes, they are. How quickly do we need to act? How quick do they need care? And then it's also little things like vital signs. People say, I can take a pulse. Can you? Do you know where all the pulse points are? Do you know what it means?
And can you hear it? Yeah.
Do you know how to evaluate? A stethoscope. How many,
Doesn't work in a helicopter.
No. And it's also, how can you take a blood pressure without a blood pressure cuff? I show things like that. There's little tricks, there's little things that you learn, but it's also evaluating those vital signs and what do they mean? What does that top number and bottom number actually mean? And when they're really far apart or really narrow together, does that mean something? Yeah, it does. And how you can gauge that and trend vital signs when taking care of a patient in an austere environment or a prolonged care scenario, because it's not all the sexy trauma stuff. You've got to do things like, measure P. I know that sounds like real exciting, but it's nursing care. But knowing that amount of output they're putting up means something. It tells you what their progress is and how to evaluate by actually looking at P. I mean, it's. I know that may sound funny, but I teach you those things, and it is in depth. There are some stuff that's on a physician level, nurse level, paramedic level, and stuff, but you don't need to have that passed. I bring it up, and we bring it up gradually to a point that hopefully. And I've been told I do, that I make it easy to understand and digest and grasp a hold of in layman's terms, so to speak.
Right, because we don't have 2 years to put you through school with $50,000, right? We're going to show you what you need to know, when you might see this, right?
Right.
You are the only, there's no one coming.
No.
This is what we can give you in this amount of time. These are the things that you're most likely to encounter.
Well, and it's I like to call it, let's cut out the bullshit. This is what you need to know, this is what you don't need to know, and this is how you apply these things. And it's really in your own imagination and your own desires, how far do you want to go? There's nothing that says I can't show you these things and teach you these things. I just can't certify you.
Right.
And on physician level, nurse level, even paramedic level stuff, unless you go through formal training and take a formal examination, so to speak. What you do in your own home is your business. And, but I encourage people, they should know these things. They should know all these things, the farming, the medical, the shooting. But I think medical normally gets, because it's not as sexy as shooting. It's not as sexy. There's not a lot you can show. Farming or growing your own vegetables, you can show proof of action. Medical is just knowledge you keep in your back pocket till it happens.
I know a couple of dudes that have been in gunfights in the United States. A couple. I know a couple people who have been in multiple gunfights in the United States. But I know hundreds of people who have rendered medical care on the side of the road, right? I've stopped at many accidents, right? Guy crushed by a motorcycle. I've given CPR a few times. I've been there when those happen. I've never been involved in a gunfight.
Yeah, and me either. And that's the thing is you're going to use medical. You're more likely to use medical. And the thing about it is you're more likely to use something small medical-wise than the big arterial bleed and stuff. I've put tourniquets on, stuff like that, because of my job. It's not because I happened upon it. But most people think a tourniquet, it's going to be the gunshot wound. In civilian side of EMS, I put tourniquets on more because of chainsaw accidents and farming accidents than I ever did.
There should be a tourniquet with every piece of farm equipment, every log splitter, every chainsaw.
When I was in Puerto Rico, they had, we called them the tree cutters. That's what they went in, cleared out the land so then they could come in, because they had to rebuild the whole power grid. Well, that was one of the first things I saw was, we got all these guys with chainsaws. Where's your med kit? Well, it's back there. No, we made it to the point where every chainsaw had a tourniquet. Everybody operating one, it was with the chainsaw.
I've said that forever. Like they make this thing that goes on the bar, the brake or whatever, that you can put a scrunch in. Why is there not one of those rubberized pieces that holds a fucking tourniquet on that saw?
Yeah. Yeah, and we made a kit for every saw because that's what it should be. It's that important. I tell people every day, carry a tourniquet. I don't And it's not that I don't, because every day I have medical on me. Every day, if I carry anything loose, it's a tourniquet. And I literally have one on me. It lays on my wallet when I go to bed, and I take the things out of my pocket. The tourniquet goes in my, because I won't walk out without my wallet. Is that a
soft T-wide?
Yeah, it's soft T-wide. And why do I carry a soft T-wide? Because it lays flatter than a CAT.
Yeah, exactly.
CAT is actually easier to self-apply.
Right. But for a compact kit, that fits in the ankle med kit better too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I carry your ankle kit every day, and people, and I hated ankle kits until you came out with yours. That's why I encourage you to put yours up, because it was more comfortable. It's not as bulky. It doesn't stick out. You feel like you have a damn bowling ball on your leg.
Right.
But I make kits, what I call minimalist, which can fit in a back pocket or a front pocket or a cargo pocket. So you have medical. There's no excuse not to, because you're going to use that more than you will a gun.
Right, and oftentimes it's not going to be you, and you're going to wish that you had that. Imagine if something happened to your child or loved one and you didn't have that. Right,
and kids of all ages. In my classes, if your child can come and sit in the class, and usually it's about 6 to 13, if they can sit in the class and not disturb I train them for free. Yeah. Because kids need to know
At least get them exposure.
Yeah. And I can teach my grandson, who's 6, knows how to use a tourniquet and do it properly. It's not hard to learn.
So where can people get your classes? Where can this happen at?
Anywhere. I'll come to you. And all my classes, I do come to you.
How far is too far?
I'm not going to California. I can tell you that. But I'm actually planning on going to Texas. I live in West Virginia. I'm going to travel to Texas.
But we'll meet you in Arizona, right on the other side of the border.
Probably, yeah.
How many students do you need for a class?
Depending on where on the travel, but normally it's 6 people for the Homestead Medical class, to make it viable. And it's not the sexy trauma stuff, but you're going to learn more in that you'll use every day than you would in the sexy trauma. And the trauma stuff is very important to know too. I mean, I teach that. You have to know it. But the Homestead Medical teaches you, it's more of a what I call a buffet of stuff than just a small little piece of trauma. But you can look me up. I've got a website, AppalachianMedicalSolutions.com. You can email me, Chuck, at AppalachianMedicalSolutions.com, and I do custom kits. I've got canned medical kits. I've got medical kits that fit specifically for SOE products, you can see, but I'll do custom medical kits, and my classes aren't even canned. We'll build a class around your group. If you tell me, I want to know this, and this, we'll do a class that way. We can build it around to the skill set, because maybe you have a group of people, hey, we've taken, we went through Bears Responder 1, 2, and 3. We want to go beyond that, or whatever it is through. Yeah, we can do that. I'm willing to do custom classes, and even custom medical kits, because a lot of canned medical kits that you get, well, I'll use 70% of that, but not this 30. Well, if you call me, we'll build you a kit that you'll use 100%.
1,000-piece medical kit.
Yeah, with a 999 Band-Aids, right?
Yeah, or 300 Band-Aids, and when you rip the package into 2 pieces, that's the other 600 pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's so we build real medical kits, and it's with gear that I've used. It's not junk stuff. It's stuff I've used on real patients and stuff that I believe in. And if you ask me about something, I'm truthful about the gear.
What does Homestead Medical consist of? Like, what's that curriculum? What are they going to get when they
they're going to get patient assessment is a big thing. And I know a lot of people don't think that, but that's every patient starts with you assessing them. But really, truly, how to assess, are they sick or not sick? How quick do I need to move? Which is going to guide what your course of treatment's going to be. We're going to learn about vital signs, how to trend vital signs. And then you're going to learn about wound care. When I say wound care, it's extensive wound care, not just we're going to clean it up a little bit. It's, do I close it? Do I not close it? Different forms of types of closures, whether it is the new zip stitches, whether it's butterflies or steri strips. And yes, there is a difference. Whether we're going to staple it or we're going to actually do real sutures. We're going to dive into some true pharmacology.
Are the zip stitches really working?
Yeah, they really do work.
But you have to stop the bleeding first, right?
Yeah. So, and you also have to clean that wound, debride that wound. And is it going to be, can I close it right now? Or do I need to do a delay closure? Do I need to watch this a day or two to do more debridement? Or am I better yet, leaving this wound open? We're going to pack, and we're going to do wet to dry dressings and do debridement, every day. You learn that. Plus, we do pharmacology as far as, great, you've got fish mocks. Well, what antibiotics work best for what? Whether it's respiratory or is it a skin problem? Is it something that's a topical problem? And some true emergency medical stuff. What do you do if somebody has an MI, a heart attack, a stroke, things like that? How to recognize those things. What can you do with limited resources? And then also some things of, well, now I've got these household products. How can I use them medical wise? And then how to even do things like make your own saline,
How do you make your own saline?
Come to my class, you'll find out.
For real, how do you do it?
Well, it's literally it's a mixture of, you could boil water, you process water, so to speak, you bring it to a sterility, and then you're adding in a certain amount of salt, and then you basically cook that up.
And we're using that really just for volumization, right?
Volumization, yeah. A lot of people like to use it for wound care and stuff, but you don't need that. Treated tap water is just as effective.
Sterile.
Yeah.
As long as it's sterile.
Sterile water. Yeah, treated tap water. Yeah, as long as you don't have contaminated. But you could literally run water out of your tap right now, and I could use it to clean a wound.
Right, because there's chlorinated.
It's going to be just fine.
What's the IV? What's the IV bags? Not Ringers. The other one is sodium.
There's sodium chloride, which is saline. That's what people refer to as saline. And that's
usually just to volumize or push other things in with it.
Right, exactly. And and a lot of times IV access is gained just to give medications, because IV wise, you got to remember your veins carry blood back to the heart. So that's just to get it into your circulatory system quicker.
Hydraulics.
Yeah, that's all it is. But it's faster than a PO or an oral medication, because an oral medication, a pill or a tablet, goes into your body. It's got to dissolve and then get into your bloodstream and go, where IV is just quicker.
But we can get it in fast through the colon.
You can get it in fast through the colon. You can get it in fast even through the mucous membranes. Yeah, buccal. That's one of the fastest routes. And through the colon is also a very fast route. Your quickest route, and even through the skin, just absorption through the skin is actually almost as fast as digesting. And that's why you'll have some things like nitroglycerin patches that you see people, or pain patches that they put in, because it takes a little bit longer, and it can be extended through a period of time. But I teach all those things, your different routes of medications and what you can use for, and then how alternate uses of over-the-counter medications.
So fast forward, we're 2 years into collapse, right? There is no more antibiotics. What do we do?
I mean, you're going to have to make them. Honestly, and there are ways and things that you can, and there's plenty of classes. I am by no means an expert on that, but I'm learning more about it, and I'm partnering. I'm trying to partner up with some people now to offer some of those classes too to come up. But I want to know more for myself, but I also want to be able to pass that information on. But you're going to have to make your own antibiotics, and then you're going to have to go to alternate means, of what you do. But also 2 years into a collapse, what your immune system is now, then
everybody there is a strong motherfucker at that point.
Yeah, if you've made it 2 years,
mentally and physically tough.
Yeah,
everything's changed. You're going to be able to drink dirty water at that
point. Right, and that's why this whole mask thing, everybody wearing masks, it's done more harm to your immune system than what it is. Because
that's why we're going to get flagged right there. That's when this gets flagged for the next week. This is what did it.
You're right.
No, I'm with you.
But it's the truth, and there's medical people who say it. Think about it. If you expose your kids build up an immune system. They're not sick all the time because they're around other kids.
Yeah, they used to have chickenpox parties. When one kid on the street had chickenpox, everybody came over to play.
Yeah, that's exactly how I got chickenpox. Was my mom was pushing me down, going.
And as that went on, you have adults getting shingles now, which is what, chickenpox, because they didn't have it when they were kids.
Yes.
Yeah, crazy shit. So. That's a 2-day class, Homestead Medical?
A 2-day and a 4-day. I have 4 versions. So there's basically a basic and an advanced, or you can do all 4 days at once.
Is it fun?
Oh, yeah. I don't do PowerPoint. I ask anybody who's done my classes. I hate PowerPoint. I hate teaching with PowerPoint. So I'm not going to make somebody go through that. I hate sitting through PowerPoint. Most of my class is hands-on, and a lot of it is, instead of me lecturing on some stuff, I'm like, all right, we're going to do it. We're doing it live. This is how we're going to do this. You're actually learning as you're doing, because adults learn better through motor skill by actually doing it.
What can you teach online?
I could do a tourniquet class. You mentioned earlier on one of the other recordings. I could do a tourniquet class online. I can do some wound care, but there's some stuff that I have to be there to make sure you're actually getting the motor skill of it right. But, there's basic how to put a pressure bandage. Believe it or not, there's a technique of wrapping that pressure bandage on how to do it. There's some things, and that's what I'm going to do. I've been a little resistant to some online education, but now I'm seeing to reach a broader audience. I can sell that, here, you pay me $20, $50, whatever it is. We're going to do this class, and I can even do it to where I schedule it to do it live, till we have live interaction.
Right. I think there's a lot of money to be picked up on that, right? And it's not that you're going to get a guy that's going to take this and not go to a real class.
Right.
You're going to get the dudes. If you had 500 people register, 250 aren't even going to watch the fucking video.
Right.
So that's profit anyways.
Right.
250 are going to kind of pay attention to the video, right? And if, like we were talking about, if we did an online tourniquet class and you sent out you had 500 students send out 500 tourniquets, 250 aren't even showing up for the class that have already paid for it. 100 of those dudes, when you're like, okay, take your tourniquet out of the pack, they're not even going to do it. Who cares? I mean,
it doesn't. It really, when it comes down, it doesn't matter. But I like the idea of actually scheduling a class and doing it live because you have that interaction. Because you need that interaction with the students so they can ask a question. So make sure that everybody understands, because you have a learning curve when or an audience. Some people can pick up on it, and others you got to bring them along a little bit.
Man, I think there needs to be a book you can go buy that says, okay, my nose is running. These are the symptoms. These are the antibiotics. Okay, I have this, but what's better than this? If I don't have this, I can use this. I weigh this much. This is the dosage. I need to take 2 of these. I have 200 milligrams versus 400 milligrams. I need to preload with 3 200s, right? So I'm going to take 600 milligrams on the first day, and then the next day I'm going to go drop that down. Like, that needs to be a quick fucking reference.
It's funny you say it. You and I discussed this.
Did we?
Not too long ago, and I'm actually this morning. Believe it, I've been working on that since we discussed it, because I was coming up with something with my class, but then you said, it's like, there is no reason why this can't go out.
And I say that because ham radio, right?
Yeah.
VX7R, right? Yaesu. You can go buy, it's about this big, it's spiral bound, it's these plastic pages or laminate pages. There's probably 10 cards in there. And with that comes this little credit card trifold.
Yep.
That has all the little cheat codes for all those buttons for the motherfucker who's never going to he doesn't even have a license, right? So he can't key up and hit a repeater. But when it comes to use it in simplex mode, and you have 6 buttons and everyone does 20 different things, push this, push that, right? You need the little cheat code thing.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Because
at some point in the future, some goober who bought that fucking thing is actually going to have, oh yeah, my wife is sick. There is no more hospital. Thank God I bought this. And then you're going to have those dudes that actually look at it and they actually have it in their head when they need it for normal day life before bad shit happens. But I would buy that, and I would buy hundreds of those fucking things, and I would send them to fucking people I care about, just so that, because that's a great stocking stuffer, right? That's something we used to go at Christmas and we'd build out these badass stockings for the kids, right? We'd go to Walmart and buy packs of BBs and fishing hooks and Ferrocerium fire starters, right? And we just buy that shit. I still have boxes of that shit if we ever need it from all those times. But those are things you can do with your kids. And having that book, man, that is something that you don't have to be present, and we can sell that all over the place, right? You can sell it. I can sell it through my shop. You put an affiliate, you put Amazon on that, put it on there, and that gets your name out. And somebody goes, oh, who's this Chuck guy, right? There's Dr. Bones, Nurse Amy. They've put out a bunch of books. We sell the shit out of their books. I buy their books up. I talk directly to him. Cases of books show up. We sell out of the books every time. He writes a new book. He does an updated book. He does one on veterinary medications and that kind of cross-reference. But it's not in a little plastic guide. It's not on something that I can keep. It's a book. And when a book gets wet, a book is no good.
I'm doing one just like you said, spiral bound. It's going to be laminated pages that'll go through. And it's a quick reference.
That's what we need.
I've got this symptoms cross-reference through antibiotics. This antibiotic will treat this, but then you can also think, I've got a cold, or I've got a runny nose or a sore throat.
Right.
You look and it lists what to do. And then I'm also adding in even what over-the-counter medications that you could do combined with that stuff and the course of treatment on a quick little reference book that a 6-year-old could understand.
And then take it a step further, right? We can't get this, so we're going to run we're gonna use rosemary
Right.
in a suspension
Yep.
of olive oil, and we're gonna add in fucking lemon fucking peel zest or whatever. Like you can
How to
you can
make
take
your
that
own-
so
yeah.
many different directions.
And that's what I want to do, because this doesn't need to be a secret for everybody, and you don't need to. Are there trained medical problem? Yes. Can I teach you how to do open heart surgery? No. I can teach you how to drain a cyst.
Can we make epinephrine?
Could you? Yes.
Could we make anesthetic? Right? Could we
Yeah.
make xylocaine, novocaine, shit like that?
To an extent, yes, you could. I
And
mean,
then
to
with
something-
epi, nose, toes, anything that grows, right? You don't ever use epinephrine on
Correct.
fingers, digits, nose.
Yeah, you're going to use lidocaine on, and those are the things that you can explain, because you know what? It's not hard to take lidocaine, and if you have to numb something up, to stitch it or whatever. But a lot of people don't realize this, and this is one of the things I teach. Sutures. What are sutures for?
Closing a wound.
Yeah, but why were they really invented? Are there some cases sutures?
Why were they invented?
Well, most sutures are done today for.
Cosmetics.
Yeah, it's cosmetic. I can close most wounds with a staple gun. What's the deterrent with staples? They leave a scar. Sutures don't as much. So, but you could staple somebody up real quick, and I can teach you how to use literally a skin stapler in 30 seconds.
So we had I cut my finger. This is the scar from it, and I went next door because I knew that our neighbors were having a Bible study,
Right.
and they had a internal medicine surgeon there, right? So I'm like, hey, I need you to close this wound. He's like, I don't have any stuff. I'm like, well, today's your lucky day. Here are all these sutures. Here is some syringes. Here is xylocaine. I had all the shit. So he put the stitches in very reluctantly. And then I went home and continued to work. And in, I think it was 13, 14 days, right? We're going to cut those sutures out.
Yeah.
And I had a corpsman, 18 Delta, was actually at the house. He was picking up some gear we'd made. And I'm like, hey, I need to take these sutures out. And he's like, ooh, that doesn't look very good, right? Ooh, yeah, it's kind of hot. That's probably not good. So we took the sutures out, and lo and behold, the wound was not closed at all. And he's like, ooh, yeah, that's bad. He goes, okay, do you have betadine or anything like betadine, right? And he's like, do you have a toothbrush? I'm like, yes. He goes, a new toothbrush. He's like, okay, so we took the betadine, we put it in the microwave, and we got it hot. And then we took the toothbrush and dipped it in the betadine. And he's like, you're going to do this 3 times a day. Take this toothbrush, run it over this direction. It's probably going to hurt. Well, it was so fucking swollen and red and irritated, I didn't feel it at all.
Right.
And after doing that, that wound started closing. Like the next day, it started closing up. And within a week, that wound was completely closed, even though it was fucking infected. And there's, like you said, there's a lot of ways to do different things.
It's just skill and knowledge, just like what he showed you. It's skill and knowledge, and you apply that, you can take care of a lot of stuff yourself. The reason the medical establishment doesn't want you to know how to do this, you got to be self-reliant on them.
Right.
And they
make it as though you're going to harm yourself. They
Yeah.
need you to need them. I said that last night. I go, I walked in the kitchen and I'm like, where are all the bowls at? And she's like, we only have 2 bowls. I'm like, no, there's a stack of bowls missing. And I, for some reason, it came up on the live feed. I'm like, there's a lot of motherfuckers walking around that if they couldn't find a bowl, they wouldn't eat cereal, right? They'd never think to put cereal in a cup or, in a plastic container or something. And that's the thing. We just need to expose you to it. We need you to have seen it so that when you need it, it is in your quiver, right? It's in the inventory.
And if you don't have a bowl, make one.
Right,
That would.
right. But how many people would just stand and die or wouldn't eat? Like all they have is cereal. They're not going to open a can of tuna or something. I can't have tuna because I don't have mayonnaise. And there are people out there like that. And we just need to expose people to other alternatives.
Well, and that's part of the homestead medicine. One of the other things that I go through, and people look at it and they're like, well, I don't know if why is that so important? Sanitation.
Right. That's what's going to offer
That's
you.
what's going to...
Dirty air and fucking... and
food safety. Those things, how can you really... But the other thing is you're going to see diseases we haven't seen. How much do we see scurvy? How much do we see typhoid and things like that here in the U.S.? Dysentery. We don't because of all those other things. We'll see it again. So how do you treat that? How can you take care of that? How can you do those things to mitigate that, to avoid that? And that's the thing is...
So what's the answer?
It's training and knowing, skill and knowledge. Honestly, it's treating water.
Give them something actionable.
Yeah.
What is it?
Treat your water, clean water. And it's not real hard. If you don't have the water filters, boil it, and take a rag and pour it through. Filter it somehow and boil it. Just treat water, because that will eliminate so much stuff,
Right.
because people get desperate.
How do you make
with
a
water.
sand filter, right?
Yeah.
They're so stuck on
Charcoal
they're
and sand
stuck on
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, you don't need, you can do it yourself. You can literally go out here and find rocks and sand and make your own filter.
Right. How do you make chlorine?
Yeah.
You take salt, you
Yep.
apply liquid, it can be urine, you apply an electrical
Yep.
charge. Like people they don't have any idea.
Yeah, and it's the food safety. You know, well, what if we don't have electricity? Dig a hole in the ground.
Cook, you have fire.
Yeah, cook it, but you
How
can
do you-
also
yeah.
smoke meat. You know,
Yeah.
how do you think? Do you think
For
in the
preserving,
1800s they had refrigerators?
Yeah,
No.
we're building a smokehouse. It'll look just like these outhouses.
Yeah.
It'll be a cold smokehouse.
Yeah, and it's little things like that. It's the sanitation, it's the nursing care, and then when somebody is sick, what the little things you can do each day that's going to make them get better and take care of them so they don't get some of these diseases and things that's real easy to get, you know. And because it's, as you say, because it's true. It's not going to be the gunshot wound that kills you. It's going to be as you're
Mine's
working
gonna
on
be a
your
hang-
fence.
Mine's going to
Yeah.
be I chew my fingernails.
Yeah.
And I'll get a hold of something, and that's what gets me, right? It's not
Yeah.
it's the thing that's sticking up.
Yeah.
And I'll pull it, and it'll fucking run halfway up my finger. It'll literally be the hangnail. It's not the zombies or
Right.
the airplane crashing on
No.
me. I fell off the four-wheeler and fucking broke my
You're not
wrist.
gonna, it's not going to kill you then, but it's when you go out and you're cleaning up after the animals
It's
and you get the
always
chicken
poop.
poop and
It's
the
always-
it's
if
going to
you-
be in that. That's what's going to
All
kill you.
dirt started as somebody's or something's shit.
Yep.
Always,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. And that's what's going to kill you. but
Here's the
it's-
question. So the question I've always had, okay, we had squirrels running around in California, and every now and then they pop up with plague. Somebody gets the plague. How hot do I have to cook the squirrel to kill the plague so I can eat the squirrel? I've never seen the answer.
I've from what I've always seen, like rats. I saw a thing not too, and I can't remember who
there's
it
people
was.
in the world eating rats right now.
Eats rats. 106 internal temperature of 165 degrees will kill anything, but 180 degrees is the best.
That's a lot for a rat, man.
Yeah.
That seems like a well done rat.
So
I was
that's the thing.
we were producing hundreds of rats every week for the snakes. And we always joked, I'm like, yeah, when society collapses, I'm going to sell these baby squirrels.
Yeah.
People because you cook a squirrel and cook that hair off that tail,
Yep.
it looks like a rat. Yeah. And you can carry we did for International Rat Catcher Day or something. We sent out a pouch with a big ass rat trap, and people were like, why would I want these? Some people knew, but you screw that fucking thing on a tree with some peanut butter or anything, you can catch squirrels all day long right out in the park.
Chipmunks, depending on where you
Yeah.
are, mink. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many different things that can go in there. But here's what people don't realize is you get hungry enough.
You'll eat
I
anything.
had some, and it's a delicacy. Like you go to places even that are U.S. territories, Puerto Rico, they eat iguana.
Oh yeah, fucking they're eating dude. There's bounties on iguanas right now in Florida.
Yeah.
There are people eating iguanas that don't,
And
that
I
don't
had
have
it-
to be eating iguana.
No, it doesn't taste like chicken. It tastes like shitty dry chicken. I can tell
I think
you
it
that.
depends how it's prepared.
It is. It is. I had it a couple times. The first time I had it, it was horrible. The second time I had it were obviously iguana, chefs, as I would call them. They were locals, and they fixed
Man,
it
you
up.
got to find the brown guys. You
Yeah,
find the
yeah,
fucking
that
Cuban.
they-
I
I'm
promise
telling you, it was
You
so- it
find
was
the
good.
brown guys in Florida cooking iguana.
Yeah.
I would seek it out. Like if
Yeah.
I would go to it. We used to go to this chain restaurant called Carlos Murphy's. And there was a couple of them in San Diego, kind of like Dick's Last
Yeah.
Resort. And they'd be in costume and shit, and they'd cuss at you and stuff. But they had on the menu, it says, yes, we have no iguana. But that was their thing. They always had you assumed they had iguana. You couldn't get iguana there. But the sole reason I went there is because I thought we could eat iguana at Carlos Murphy's. The other thing I've not looked, I've not spent a lot of time, but I bet I spent 20 minutes looking for it. They say, armadillos carry leprosy. How hot do we have to cook that motherfucker so we can eat that and not worry about leprosy? I also saw that there's not any U.S. cases of anybody actually catching active leprosy from.
No, I don't know. I don't think there's been any U.S. cases of leprosy in God knows how
Don't
many
worry,
years.
your
Yeah.
government will bring it back.
Yeah, exactly. But there's answers to that. It's just going out and finding that.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
I mean, but I don't know that, but I know a lot of meats that are tainted with things. If you get above 180 degrees internal temperature, that usually kills.
There's people eating roadkill. Like that's
Oh, yeah.
that's a real thing. Not like I saw a deer hit, like pulled over. Like they do it in SEER school. Like there's dudes eating all kinds of stuff.
I'm from West Virginia.
Oh,
I've eaten
yeah.
roadkill.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we've watched it happen. Went, that's still good, and looked
Yeah.
at it, going, oh yeah.
We have these wild game dinners
Yeah,
here, and
yeah.
like. You guys aren't very impressive. Like there ain't no possum. You don't got no opossum, no raccoon. You're doing like turkey and deer and shit.
Yeah. If you've ever had like possum, you know it's greasy as shit.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Skunk.
Yeah. I mean, but you can eat all of that. You can eat those
Right.
things. If it's meat, you can eat it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Friends of ours went to Argentina, Portugal. They went to Portugal, and the dude's like, what do you want for dinner? Do you want fish or do you want meat? They're like, what kind of meat is it? It's meat. Like they don't know what it was. It's just meat.
I've been in places, other countries where I've eaten stuff. I'm like, man, what is this? This is so good. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to ask.
Yeah, it's
I don't
totally-
want it ruined. It
Yeah.
tastes good. I'm just going to leave it alone.
Yep. All right, man. So what's your social media?
I'm on, you can find me TikTok, Instagram, under Appalachian Medical Solutions. I've got a YouTube channel, Chuck Peoples Appalachian Medical Solutions. And you go to my website, it's got links to all my social media, AppalachianMedicalSolutions.com. But
That's
yeah,
a long fucking URL. We need
well,
to find
I've
out a
got
shorter one.
It's I actually just bought a new URL.
Good. Go get all of them. You have about
I
3
am.
days before this goes live. You better go get all the rest of them too.
I've got a shorter URL that I've gone to, and it's actually on my YouTube right now. If you on stuff that I comment on, the shortened one is because even you said I can't see all your comment because the name's so damn long. So
yeah.
it's a YouTube problem with thing. But yeah,
yeah, you need to go get Homestead Medical right now too.
yeah.
Get that .com redirected.
Matter of fact, I made that note when you were recording earlier. I put that in my phone so I wouldn't forget.
Because Homestead Medical fucking jumps out to people. It jumps out to a lot of different people, whereas Appalachian, I can't even fucking say it. Appalachian Medical Solution. That's a long fucking. That's a long name, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Keep it. But you need to go get home because every motherfucker you're gonna hear somebody's trying to buy it right now.
Yeah,
You better make sure you have it before they're typing it.
Right.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for sitting
Thanks,
down,
man.
and we'll go inside and discuss some other shit now.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thanks.
Yeah, man, I'm talking about realest, one of the realest to try. My family, SOE.
You have your own music for your podcast?
Not yet.
I'll give you mine. It says John Willis.